We start with a short freestyle. So hi everybody. As you know, this is a Crypto Meetup, regular one, which happens every month. It's in English because there are quite a few people in the audience who don't speak Bulgarian. How could you? Yeah, so every meetup is usually in English. As you know, we are doing this for what, like 25 months already. So 2 years and a month. Yeah, not bad. And the goal is always to kind of basically educate people about the whole thing around blockchain, have these discussions, have people mingle around with each other. But the blockchain itself is kind of skyrocketing without us anyways, but it's good that kind of active people from the community are coming, participating and so on. And today's topic is going to be around one of the very interesting and sort of sought after topics of, where to get the money from. Either the VC or the stupid Nigerians who invest in tokens, no, or the token sales, basically. As you see, this is so important topic nowadays that venture capital is becoming super close to ICO finances. As you see, for February, it's $720 million US, where the ICO side you have 480 millions. And bear in mind that in these rounds, probably there is soft banks putting, 500 million in something. So the ICO is literally might be becoming a more important model than venture capital, and it happens right now, which is amazing for the history of the world. And we'll have a very nice discussion. But before that, as every crypto meetup, we'll actually tell you what has been going on in the crypto space. And that's Vlad's signature move. I've been doing it for 2 months because he wasn't here, but he's back. So say welcome back to Vlad, and yeah, he'll do it.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Yes, I missed, actually, this is my first meetup for the year. Ivo did the previous 2 ones, for which I'm very thankful. But this time I decided to come, of course, and hopefully I'll be here the next couple of times. And what we do usually during our meetups, what we start with before the main topic of the event is the month headlines, which is currently the March headlines. And this is the result from the poll. That we, about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before the event, we get this poll out and ask people what are the most important things that happened in the cryptosphere. And you see these are the top 5, but I mean, currently for this time, usually it's only the first 3 that I talk about, but this time I have also included the Google and Facebook, and for the last one, we can just mention it during the discussion, because it's, I mean, what is going to happen with blockchain? People need real use cases. How will this happen? Which will be the next big real use case, or the next use case? Because the previous one, the biggest, was smart contracts or ICOs. This is the commercially successful use case of blockchain. But what will be the next one that's going to push the prices maybe up again? So starting with the first thing, the epic bearish market. That everybody's so scared about. What I want to say is that this doesn't happen for the first time, of course. It's all sadness and tears, and we have seen this. If you have been in the sphere for a long time, you have seen this a couple of times happening. Very importantly, if someone has told you that you get really rich quickly without just by buying tokens or something, he lied. Especially if it was a Facebook ad or some kind of a paid ad. Usually, I personally don't believe in those, and they usually lie. Exactly, or Giorgiano. He also is not the perfect investment consultant. Potential causes, it's Binance. This was very, I would say, a short-lived event. There was some rumors that something's wrong with Binance, that they have lost some money. But it turned out that they have actually managed to go through an attack against them and actually stole the money or the cryptos of the attacker, which was a first in the crypto space. But maybe the news kind of shake the markets a little bit. There was also the SEC warning, and there was also warnings from the European institutions and also the Bulgarian National Bank about how volatile ICOs are and how careful people should be with those. And also the Mt. Gox selling. So there was this event where someone who was, I don't know, in possession of a large amount from the Mt. Gox coins started selling them, and about 400 million in Bitcoins were sold on the markets in March. And it's not clear what effect or how they were really sold and what effect really they had, but I mean, it's quite possible that they have also pushed the prices down a little bit as well. And maybe the bad news is that 166,000 Bitcoins are still left that need to be sold. And that's a huge, huge amount that needs to be also sold. The ads ban, also some negative news, you know, Google is saying no to this, Facebook is saying no to this. A lot of people get really affected by this, and their idea about the future of blockchain and cryptocurrencies may be shaken a little bit. So this kind of produces the general gloomy mood, and could be also, again, this markets are coming down after the irrational exuberance of 2017. Of like everybody buying tokens and hoping that they'll be very rich very soon. And the other thing is that 2007, huge year for a lot of promises. Everybody was promising. But now, 2018, these promises must create something, a use case or a kind of something that people can use. Or these use cases that have been promised to be created should be created actually, but there are also technological constraints. We know that the Ethereum network is limited in capacity, and we'll see what's going to happen in 2018. And of course, there is also this unknown. I mean, what is the cause of this happening? Why the price is falling? I mean, this could be this cat. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of different factors that unite into a single thing that pushes prices up and down, generally called sentiment of the markets. And this is actually a quote that I'm very proud of because I came up with it in December, and it kind of rhymes. And yeah, you think about that when you're investing in crypto more than you can lose. So the next thing, this was. Ivo showed this the previous time, but I just wanted to come back to this again, and especially to this graphic here. This is, well, the largest fall that I remember, and you can see how quickly the prices fell. It was, again, a lot of gloom and tears. Everybody was wondering what's happening, and we might be going through a period like that. But usually, the next period goes through this becomes the minimum price, and then the prices go much higher than this. I'm not promising, this is not an investment advice, of course. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, might be even completely different, but what I have noticed for the next 4 or 5 years is this happens. A lot of people get depressed, weak hands, lose money, and then everybody who manages to buy some at some point basically jumps on the next ride up. But again, I don't know what's going to happen. Might be a completely different thing. So the next thing, the next 2 points are a bit technical. This one is Bitcoin, the next version of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin client, the Bitcoin core client, 0.16, which now comes with full support for SegWit, which is a software improvement of Bitcoin, which allows for more transactions and generally a more secure Bitcoin network. And also these batch 32 addresses have been introduced, which, as far as I understood, they provide more security for multi-signature addresses. And they start with a different 3 letters in front. And now the Bitcoin core client supports those addresses. HD wallets, when you're starting a Bitcoin core client, it doesn't automatically provide you with the seed. And now, as far as I understand, Bitcoin 0.16 allows you from the very installation of the Bitcoin client to write down the seed so that you can restore your addresses if something happens to your computer. Replaced by fee, it's a function that if you send a transaction and then it doesn't go through, doesn't get any confirmations for a long time, it's because of the fee. It's most probably because of the fee. So you have the option to re-announce the transaction with a higher fee so that it goes through. And you have some performance, which is related to the systems of the processors. So if your processor supports this kind of I don't know, system, it will most probably be, it will handle the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain more quickly. It will go through it more quickly. And there are some graphical user interface changes. And now we're going to the next very promising software update for Bitcoin, which is the Lightning Network. And with this release 0.5, it's now live on the actual Bitcoin network. So people can really test doing Lightning transactions on the main net, on the main Bitcoin net. But the general warning is to only do this for small amounts yet. Although there are a lot of enthusiasts, thousands of enthusiasts worldwide who are doing transactions for higher amounts. And what are the different advantages of this release? You have Bitcoin D support, which is, I guess, important for the developers. New seed format, a better way to save your wallet. Fault tolerance. So if you're in a transaction and then for example, your electricity goes away, there is some kind of a system that takes care of your transaction. Again, when you're opening a channel and then trying to send this transaction to somebody, it now finds its path more efficiently in the Lightning Network. And this automatic contract resolution is again related to what happens if something happens to your computer or in some way your channel is affected by, I don't know, the different things. And the systems now kind of know what to do and to how to save your money or your coins. And it's only SegWit only. Doesn't support any other types of addresses. It's SegWit only, and you can now, have better metrics for the different routing nodes through which your transactions are going when you're doing transactions. And the future improvements, maybe the most important one, I would say, they're all important. This is very interesting, atomic multipath payments, and this allows you to. If you have, for example, money in 10 different channels, you can do one single transaction and get all of these channels to go to a single place. So have a larger payment, which is composed of smaller payments. And for some reason, this was very hard to achieve, but it should be available in the next release. Desktop and mobile apps, also very important. People need to feel comfortable using the Lightning Network, and this will be the major, I would say, the hardest thing to achieve. And all the other different, this is also very interesting, cross-chain atomic swaps. This is very important for decentralized exchanges. This will basically allow to lock certain amount of coins, like of Bitcoins on the network, and then purchase the same amount of Ether on another network. So basically, unify the different blockchains. And this is something that is considered to be essential for decentralized, effective, efficient, decentralized exchanges. This is all, and related to the Lightning Network. If somebody out here is willing to create a tutorial which explains how to install the beta of the Lightning Network on a Windows PC, does a video tutorial, maybe publish it on YouTube in Bulgarian, but the BitHope Foundation will donate 0.02 to this person. And we'll be very grateful. So, and this video will allow more people to kind of test the Lightning Network and see what it feels like to do transactions in the Lightning Network. So I think it's very important for the local community here. And the fourth thing actually is Google and Facebook. There were a lot of discussions even in the group about what Google and Facebook did with ads. and it's censorship at its finest. You have certain entities which basically can do whatever they want in their universes. And Facebook is more or less the internet, one type of internet which everybody uses, and Google is more or less the same thing. So they can do whatever they want, and more or less in their universes. They have concentrated power, of course, single point of failure. So if you're in a way relying on Facebook and Google for your business related to blockchain and ICOs and cryptocurrencies, I would say maybe think twice, find different channels to reach your audience. These are not the best ones. I'm talking about paid ads. I mean, you should always maybe have a presence there, but paid ads, it's tricky. And it's, of course, why did this happen? The obvious answer is because of the excessive ICO marketing of shitcoins that happened in 2017. So many different projects which were basically just applications or whatever, ICOs, without a maybe bright future. But a lot of people went through those, maybe lost some money, maybe complained, and the government regulators are waiting for this just to use it as an excuse to push Facebook or Google in some direction. The positive thing is that it's going to be less spam. Maybe less people will get burned because they don't understand what they're doing by investing. We are back to this, or a certain organic growth for ICOs and projects. And marketing for the blockchain sphere, crypto sphere, I would say it's a bit different than anything else, or different type of marketing. And I would say you need to specialize in this. And the inability to have paid ads in Google and Facebook will actually push you in that direction, to have a really blockchain and ICO concentrated marketing. And then we have these charts of prices on each event that we have organized. You can see Bitcoin's graph doesn't look too positive, but it's not that bad, especially in comparison to Ether. Ether just took the plunge. It's like really directly going down. But I guess this is also related to the fact that the Ethereum network currently has some serious scaling issues, and all these scaling issues affect the entire ICO, or maybe 90% of the ICO sphere, because 90% of the ICOs are applications based on smart contracts on Ethereum. So people are kind of losing faith a little bit. Maybe things will get better. And what's next? We have the gentle introduction, which Ivo actually already did. Maybe he can say a few other words.
It's super important for us to do this topic because nowadays, especially from a country like Bulgaria, people don't know where to get money for their projects. And it's been very, like, if you're in Silicon Valley, you're surrounded by venture capitalists who can give you money. And now things like Kickstarter come out where you can support your project from abroad, but like this ICO things is really funding for innovation. And that's the first sort of thing which happens globally. You can raise money from anywhere, and that's why this whole blockchain thing is global. The first time a technology which might be so revolutionary for the world has an opportunity to raise money globally. And we decided to do this sort of debate between, token sale versus venture capital. It's not really versus, it's like the different points between the two sides. And we decided to invite a couple of people who've been to this, both things. First one, if you guys want to sit when I'll be introducing you, first one is Luben Belov, where is Luben? Yeah, he is. Luben is actually managing partner in Launch Hub, but Luben is also one of the very first people who started investing in Bitcoin and blockchain space as an investor and also as a token holder. We invested when? In 2013 maybe, earliest. March 2014, so yeah. Then Nicola, who is one of the co-founders of Eternity, come by. He's, okay, also. Welcome guys, welcome. Very, very happy to have you here. So basically, these guys raised, what was it, about 28 million back then in Ether plus Bitcoin ICO, which probably went up, but yeah, they're still one of the most successful ICOs in Europe and Bulgaria for sure. So they've been to that process. Then Kirill, who is from Cofound.it. I actually don't know that much about you, so I'll let you speak about it. And then Maya, who is a lawyer, very active in the blockchain space. That thing doesn't need to go more. And also Vanina, who is CMO of ADEX. Hi. ADEX is one of the also very successful ICOs here in Bulgaria. You raised, what, 10 million back then? 12 million. So these guys, they all know about this process. And basically what we have here is a panel which will be speaking about these topics. So how you want to lead that? Basically. Yeah, so okay. If you want, guys, just to say a couple of words about your perspective of, the whole ICOs versus venture capital, maybe that's too broad, but still, like, just to say a couple of words about you, your experience in that, and maybe general opinions. You want to start first?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I don't know how much you know about Launchhub Ventures, but we're one of the very active VC firms in the whole region, Southeast Europe, how we call it. We are the first institutional investors in successful companies such as UCC, Limpwam, who else? And our very own economy, which is maybe one of the most successful European fundraisers. They have raised approximately 300,000 ethers back in. It was 2016. My personal background, prior to jumping on the wrong side of the table and becoming a VC, I have co-founded and led the largest internet company in Bulgaria, Netinfo, which I co-founded together with a friend back in 1998, and we successfully exited for about $50 million back in 2008. And what else? I'm also the majority shareholder of NEG, which is the owner of BG Mama, and that's it.
You with Netinfo went through a couple of rounds of venture.
Yeah, we got 4 rounds of funding, 3 rounds of friends and family and individual investors, and the 4th round was in 2004 or 5, I can't remember, but it was by one of the largest hedge funds in the world, Tiger Holding. Back then they were $1 billion under management, now approximately $5 billion under management. They even don't write checks like the one that they've written to us, $5 million. They start 20 now. So yeah, and I'm a big proponent of the VC money. One question actually I have, if I may ask, how many of you guys are working on a blockchain/crypto related projects here? Quite a bunch. And how many of you guys are founders? I want to speak to all of you. And also, how many of you are tech compared to business people? So tech first, tech. Okay, business. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So first of all, thank you everybody for coming here. It's really great to see such a development actually in the Bulgarian community, thanks to Ivo and Vlad here. Also, really good to see what kind of people actually ended up in this panel besides me. So I think in a quick matter, I would say that I've been on both sides. So we have raised capital for different projects. So I was one of the first people in Eternity with Vlad also together. We're advisors in ADEX, we were advisors for blockchain and for several other projects. especially based here in the Balkan region. And we also tried to drive as much as possible to see how much development could push forward and like actually develop here in Bulgaria, and how we could get people to actually stay in Bulgaria and not move out of Bulgaria like we have been seeing it for such a long time. I mean, Lyubin, you with LaunchUp and Stefan, you guys have done amazing over the last couple of years, I must say. Congrats to that. And so what we at Eternity, after we ended up actually quite successfully developing over the last couple of months, years actually almost, God, time flies. I think at the end of 2017, when we were at Culture Beat, I announced that we would set up something like an incubator / accelerator for the Balkan region. So actually I would like to take this opportunity here right now and announce to you guys tonight that we set it up. It's called Eternity Ventures actually. And we're actually open for people that are looking to get into blockchain, that have ideas, that need support in a closed loop ecosystem where wherever you are, if you're business, design, tech, marketing, whatever you can come up with, you're more than welcome to get involved with us. And we hope that at the end of the day, we can set up a network from VCs, angel investors, and other people in order to get this together and to like create added value.
Good to hear about the Eternity Ventures. We talked about it a few times. Hey everyone, my name is Kirill. I'm the Amsterdam lead at Cofound.it. For those of you who don't know, that's a Slovenian company, actually sort of a spin-off from Economy here. As Lubin already mentioned, Economy, one of the biggest fundraisers, and in my opinion, they sort of kickstarted a great ecosystem in a small country such as Slovenia. I think there's around 30-something projects now coming out, successful ICOs coming out of Slovenia. And yeah, basically I'm the only Bulgarian in the team. So that's, it's pretty nice that I also have the chance to come back to my hometown to talk to you guys. Yeah, so Cofound is essentially we are building a sort of startup investment protocol. So this is a long-term vision to bring everybody, startups, experts, investors, everybody, and eventually users, and to bring them on the same platform. And in the last year, we've also advised on 9 public crowd sales, and together with our own ICO back in April, and the one with the Economy, we've had the experience of 11 crowd sales by the end of 2017. Then it's also, maybe it's good thing to mention, we also are working very hard on our seed fund, so we'll be working with startups to finance, advise, and help them become successful blockchain businesses.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya. As a lawyer, this topic is very interesting for me, venture capital versus ICO financing, because when I have clients which are startup companies, usually when they come to me, they are asking usually which is the best one, which is the better approach to go to the venture capital funds for money, or to organize my financing through some public crowdfunding maybe. And usually, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, my usual advice to these startup companies was please go first to the venture capital funds. Usually their reaction was, wow, but they want to steal my company. They want 50%, they want 50 plus, they want to appoint the board members, they want to appoint the CEO, and they want to steal my company. I may find the financing from somewhere else. Okay, and they try to organize their financing through some other way. And the ICO is very fashionable now. However, there are a lot of problems with the ICO, and it occurred that it is not some paradise, not some heaven. And some of these clients went back to the venture capital funds. So it is a very interesting topic for me, and it would be very interesting to discuss with some starting companies and some of you and maybe to find some solutions for your business.
Hi everyone. I see many familiar faces in the audience, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm the marketing director of ADEX. And ADEX is a decentralized advertising network that we just launched about a month ago. We did our financing in June last year. We had a crowdfunding campaign. As Ivo said, we raised about $12 million in 8 hours, in just under 8 hours, which to me is still, I have to say, it's still surreal. My background is in marketing, and before I joined ADEX, I have not been involved in any project that has been VC funded. So I have to admit that I'm very much out of my comfort zone right now in this discussion. So I can only speak to the benefits or disadvantages, of course, of ICOs and crowdfunding campaigns in crypto. But I hope I'll be able to contribute to the discussion. Thank you.
All right, so we're talking about venture capital and also ICOs. Is there something like a middle approach or a hybrid between these things? Are VCs kind of evolving to incorporate that, or is it the other way around, or what's happening?
I just wanted to basically that, yeah, what I'm seeing is that one, you have ICOs like ADEX who raised 12 million in 8 minutes, well, 8 hours, okay, which is like phenomenal. And then you have like companies which raise shit products and don't do anything with their ICOs. But then you have CryptoKitties, which raised 12 million, and maybe they'll raise an ICO at some point. You have Blockstack, which raised venture capital money, and then they'll raise an ICO. So yeah, exactly. The question is, has ICO already surpassed venture capital, or do we need venture capital to reach the moment of ICOs? And or even if you don't have any experience with venture capital, you probably say, what are the difficulties in ICOs and things like that. So you want to start first?
I actually have a I have thought a lot, and everybody's saying VC firms gonna be disrupted by the crowdfunding, by ICOs, whatever. And I'm not that much concerned of that, because if you look at how the fundraising is happening, you will see that you have the ICO, but way before the ICOs, you have the pre-ICOs. Way before the pre-ICOs, you have the private sales, all this kind of stuff. Way before the private sales, you have the equity investment in the companies. And I have invested in some of the super hot ICOs already, like Basecoin or Trust Token or Exim Chain and so on and so forth. And they just, what you see, they just don't go to the ICO. Their fund, their rounds got filled already way before that. So the good projects actually are kind of convinced that they need to go to the traditional VC firms. CryptoKitties that got mentioned actually they have Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the top firms in the valley. They have Union Square Ventures of Fred Wilson, which is one of the top firms on the East Coast. So I'm not that much concerned. There are a lot of reasons why VC are good for the development of the projects. I'm not that much concerned that that's gonna go away. What we'll see more or less is the VCs. It's something like, if I look back in history, when I sold my company actually, and there was no VC scene in Bulgaria. So we had a lot of cash, but and there were founders, but there was not this ecosystem of VC funds and the ways how you do the due diligence and all this kind of stuff. And so you can just go there and throw your money, but someone has to help you. And what the VCs are actually doing, VCs are opening a lot of connections, VCs are asking the hard and the tough questions, and I must say that people adore that. Even the people that easily raise, they still adore, because you start asking about the go-to-market, you start asking about how you build a team, how you build, how you hire, all this kind of stuff. And more or less, this thing has to be done. And the VC firms are very good in that, and they will support. At some point of time, as you can see, it starts like the equity is the seed, and then you have the pre-sale, which is the A round, and then you have the private sale, which is the A round, and then you have the pre-ICO, which is the B round, whatever, and then you got the company public, which is not a bad thing, and that's the way, and that's how it works. And this provides for liquidity for the early investors. At the same time, the general public has been already safeguarded from all the bad actors that want to use the leap house and all this kind of stuff. So I can speak for hours on that. So I'll just leave it here. But yeah, VC firms are good.
Actually, if you think about it, you guys are becoming something like a VC firm within the blockchain space. Okay. So what is your opinion on the whole topic?
It's a little bit different. It's not that easy, actually. It's not that simple. So there are classical VC firms, and in my opinion, like I share the opinion of Lyuban that they're just not going to go away. Like, this has been something which has existed for a very long time. This is something which has proven itself for a very long time, and this is something which we will see also in the future again. In my opinion, we're seeing now something like a new player, kind of like with crowdfunding itself, a new player emerges, because you don't need to go to one person or one firm anymore directly. You can also source from everybody in this room, from everybody in this country, or from globally pretty much everybody. And what I see happening right now is that VC firms, as they are right now, also need to adapt towards this new way of, let's say, raising funds itself. I mean, Lyuban is a little bit of a strange example, because you have been in the space for a very long time. But when we look at a lot of other classical VCs, they're not there yet. Last week I was in Nairobi at a conference where there was a pitch competition, and we had the Albino Association of Africa pitching, actually, in order to raise, let's say, a small amount of funds in order to actually generate something like a MVP, or just like a basic version of their application. Let me repeat, the Albino Association of Africa. And the first question of the classical VC was, so what's your revenue model? Like, how are you going to make money off that? I'm sorry, but that was just plain stupid, in my opinion. And there needs to be a change, there needs to be adaptation, but it has always been like this, that in time, if something new arises, there's the strong players that actually adapt and go with the flow, and there's the ones that actually do not adapt. They think it's not going to change, it's always going to stay the same, and then they're not going to be able to continue in the same way they will. Now, getting actually to our project, what we're trying to do, I see it more as a hybrid. Like, what we're trying to do is set up a project with the necessities in order to be able to create over, let's say, a very, very short amount of time, like an 8-week program, to create something, to clear out the idea, get everything out there, get all the information together that the team itself feels comfortable to pitch this idea, to be like, hey, we know now roughly what we want to do. Because there's a lot of projects out there that have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And they raise tons of money, which I reckon is going to go down the drain. But in general, still, there is so much really good ideas and really good teams. And those teams that, even if the idea is not that great, I'm a strong believer in teams, and I think you share the same opinion too, that if this idea is somehow cleared out, then you can actually get to a stage where you could go and you could present in front of an angel investor, in front of a VC fund or something like that. And from there on, like, in my opinion, we're going to see something that it's going to be something more like a shared thing. Like, there's not going to be one person anymore or one company that invests, but it's going to be, let's say, a couple that share the ticket and that they bring it to the next level. And if there's need for another one, they're going to get in there again. But again, it's going to be like, we want to try to create something like a network. So it doesn't need to be one person anymore. It could be more, it could be together, and it could be easier.
Yeah, so first of all, I believe that venture capital is not going to be this So it will have to adapt. Obviously, it will have to rediscover its role in the industry, and specifically with the blockchain startups. So just to give you an example, let's say you're an accelerator and you're launching a blockchain program. You cannot copy paste your fintech program and say we have a blockchain program. So that just doesn't work. And I think you've also seen with Brightlands that that's not what they have done. They have added sections where you can get useful advice on how to run a blockchain startup, and that's very important to stress that a regular startup, the blockchain startup has a lot of different, let's say, layers of complexity that come with being a blockchain startup. So how do you make your token? You are publicly traded 24/7. I'm sure that's kept you at least up at least once or twice. So you have, yeah, our utility and our security. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing up the utility versus security, because if you're building a utility token, now the regulation is going in a way that if you are building a utility token, you have to have a service. You cannot say we're going to build a great platform. That doesn't fly anymore. And the regulation is going that way. So if you have a utility token, you better have a product. And how do you get to a product? Well, you need to get there. Ideally with somebody with proper seed round and somebody with the knowledge and with the expertise to help you to build this blockchain startup, and to help you with your token model. And I'll also make a small segue into the legal section, because you have to start thinking about incorporation, about your token model early on. You cannot, do it 1 month from the ICO. So you have to start those things as early as possible, or at best you have delays. At worst, you'll be you'll be lagging behind years. And yeah, so these things have to be taken into account. And if, of course, every VC will say we are smart money. So who said, dumb money here? There are. Okay. But let's say.
Hong Kong, and actually there was a VC panel, and one of the guys actually said, okay, it works the other way around in Asia. In the US, you buy and hold. In Asia, you buy and dump. So there are people that are openly discussing that.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially the question becomes, okay, can you help with the specific challenges that of course you let's say if you're a new ICO, one of your biggest problems is getting listed. Of course, a good connection, introduction to the CEO of Binance is not going to list you if your token is not legal, if it's not if it's not good enough to be listed there. But it can open doors and make the process a lot easier. So the network aspect is there. It's just it could be different. Your network may be relevant for the blockchain startup. And one experience from unnamed, global accelerator, they had one blockchain startup in their fintech program, and asked them, "What value did you get from the fintech program?" Well, usually it's the network. They work with Rabobank, one of the biggest one of the biggest banks in the Netherlands, but Rabobank refused to open them a bank account. So why is this useful to you? How is this bringing you any value? So yeah, of course they're not getting their way, and specialized startups will be specialized sort of incubators and VCs. They'll be much better at helping with those issues. And yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning that basically your clients are, let's go to the ICO, VCs will take everything 50% of my company, but they're not ready yet. So is the opinion of those clients better first raise each capital seed round and then to the ICO, prepare for it? What is your perspective?
I see. Well, maybe it should be underlined that we all think that venture capital financing is not dead, and we are not here at the funeral. So, in my opinion, VC financing, well, it is better for some type of businesses. For example, if your idea is absolutely global and you need this idea to be global from day one, maybe the ICO is better for you because you will reach a lot of clients. In case you have some idea in which you are targeting, for example, only Bulgarian public or the Balkan public, maybe then the VC financing is better for you. So the VC is suitable for some type of businesses, and the ICOs are suitable for other types of businesses. So my advice to the client would depend on the type of the business.
You said something very cool. You raised it to 8 minutes, which was 2,000 hours.
I wish.
From now on,
Yeah,
it's
the
8 minutes, by the
basic
way, just the story changed.
That's,
So, Alex,
so yeah, if anybody asks, we raise it in 8 minutes.
8 hours, you said, but what was it, 2017, right?
Yeah.
So last year,
Yeah, in the middle of last year, and that's the thing.
My question here, do you think that it's still possible to do that? Because, Facebook closed the ads, there are so many difficulties. Cointelegraph asked you for $30,000 for an article, whatever. Like, do you think it's still easy to raise directly from ICO?
If it's easy, no, I don't think it's easy. If it's possible, maybe, I don't know. I believe in human creativity. I believe that, at any given time, someone can come up with a super fantastic idea that people will really want to buy in, and they will sell out in 8 minutes. The truth is, for ADEX, we did our crowdfunding, our token generation campaign at a time that was very ripe for ICOs. So for us, we didn't even consider VCs because the whole business is structured in such a way. But if you allow me to build up on what Maya said, I think that right now there's a very good environment for VCs and token sales to coexist symbiotically, if you wish. What I mean by that is that a lot of current ICO projects would not be able to withstand the level of scrutiny that a project undergoes when pitching to a VC. That is something that you can get away with when you do a crowd sale, a token sale. And even though investors are getting more and more suspicious and more doubtful about projects, and they do their due diligence, it's still a very different situation. The way I see it, it's a very good option to explore using both type of financing, depending, of course, on your project and whether it allows it. For example, you can have a token sale to generate funds in order to develop your prototype, to roll out an MVP, get things running. Once this is done, then you already have a team, you already have a product that you can pitch to venture capitalists. And vice versa, if you have managed to secure funding from a VC for your project, you get it up and running, you roll it out, your idea sustains, your business is successful, you can perhaps consider token sale as a subsequent stage of funding and getting a new cash flow into your business, into your company, in order to grow your operations.
One comment. So we are talking about VCs primarily now, and how how you can organize a token sale without actually reaching the users, or reaching the users at the very last stage. And this is something like a concern of mine, because the whole point of ICOs is to allow everyone, or as many people as possible, to join. And if these people enter the 5th or 6th round, so their deal is completely different now. So the first people, the VCs that come up with at the very, very, very beginning, maybe they get, for example, let's let a number. So for 1 Ether, 1,000 tokens. What? Exactly. And then it kind of seems like the moment that the ICO that reaches people is live and people go into it, and on $1, some of the VCs just sell half of their tokens or whatever for 50 cents, and they are already very much ahead during the token sale, or a little bit after the public token sale. So this idea is kind of screwing up the little guy again, and for me, it's maybe not something that we want in the world. So ICOs are for the people. This is my idea, and I would like to see some kind of a process or regulations that can keep ICOs closer to the average user, so that he can be a part of the next Google, the blockchain or Google blockchain or whatever, this next big thing that's going to come up out of this revolution. And so maybe we can comment on that a little bit. What deal is the average guy going to get now?
Now, that's only relevant with the ICOs that are not open to the public because they raise most of it in the private sale, right? So I couldn't get into Blockstack, for instance. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For instance, I couldn't, as a user, couldn't get into Blockstack. Silicon Valley got into Blockstack, which was an ICO I really wanted to get in. And this I couldn't get as a bloody randomer outside of the world. So is that what Vlad described, the typical case scenario, or what is happening?
But in my opinion, there's no bad thing about that. I mean, if you think, okay, we're talking Blockstack, we're talking, I don't know, Basecoin, but how about the other almost 1,000 shit stuff that's out there? How about the general public pouring a lot of money into the shit without with the bad actors just leveraging and taking advantage on the leap house and all this kind of stuff? I mean, if you think, and just one point, you said, okay, investor has made a lot of money, all this kind of stuff. No, there are things like, and Maya can tell about it. There are things like lockup periods and all this kind of stuff, reverse vesting. All the VC firms are for 50, 60 years already on the market. So all the instruments needed to protect the interest of both the founders, the investors, and whoever the stakeholder is, they're out there. So what we need to do is just adapt and have and use all this kind of stuff, apply it on the crowd sale, on the ICO, whatever, and get it from there. I mean, otherwise we just leave it without regulation, without the protection of the general public. We leave it in the Wild West with no law enforcement, all this kind of stuff, and this needs to be needs to happen. I mean, if you look at CEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, they just subpoenaed dozens of utility tokens that were just mimicking securities. Is it good or bad?
I think it's an education. Can you hear me with this? Yeah. It's kind of a process of global education. So now you've invested in a shitcoin, you lose all your money. What are you going to do next? Are you going to again, or are you going to do the same thing, or are you going to think, I mean, I made a mistake before that. Maybe I should kind of maybe look for the better team, or think about more when I'm investing. So I think it's kind of a process of self-regulation. I'm not a big fan of some central authority telling you, so we are protecting you, and that's why you're going to go into the ICO at $1 and the VCs go at 1 cent. And it's like, what type of protection is this? I mean, it's protecting the people, but at the same time, it's very much in favor of the VC. So I hope we can find something like a middle ground for this. And I'm actually, I think it will happen, but it depends how it's going to be done actually in practice. Nico?
See, here's the thing, like, looking back when we did our contribution campaign last year around this time, roughly, I think it was April. April was the first round, and end of May was the second round. It was an absolutely whole different game. Like, there were those crazy kids that believed into something, and there was a huge amount of people that thought that they could actually realize it. Since then, like, I remember Vlad, when we did our contribution campaign, I think there was 10 other projects that were doing the same around the time. Not even at the same time, but around the time in general. So we had a lot. We had, even though there were less people that we were trying to reach compared to now. Even obviously we're trying to reach everybody, but back then there were less people that we could reach compared to now. Those people had less opportunity actually, because it was 10 projects. We had Bancor, Matchpool, Eternity, and a couple of others, Bit Property and so on. But that was it. Now, if you look 1 year ahead, that's literally 12 months. Compared it to something classical, like any classical pharmaceuticals, banking, whatever. Look how much this thing has developed now. There's thousands of ICOs, as Lyubin said correctly right now. There's like a lot of people in there that unfortunately do not do their homework. This is a very, very important disclaimer. Please do your due diligence before you actually get into funding whatever you think you should fund. Have a look, figure out, see that there is a team, read the white paper, and do not just jump blindly into something. So what I'm trying to say is the space just grew so quickly compared to last year, and it got so much harder for the project that I'm seeing here that are sitting here tonight actually, that are looking to prepare an contribution campaign or token sale. So for you, it's absolutely different, and do not make the mistake also to think that something like this can happen very quickly. Like, it takes time to define your idea. It takes time to gather the people that will be able to realize this idea. It takes time to actually get the funding, like just the seed funding, even though we luckily, out of pure luck actually, were able to do it without, but compared to now, again, like, it takes time to get this seed funding in order to get to a token sale actually, and this whole preparation is not going to happen in 4 to 8 weeks. You need to understand that this is a process which you actually as a project or anybody else needs to convince an entire community that this is something interesting, this is something viable, this is something which in a perfect world scenario is going to change the world. And again, like, I think that we have a lot of cool ideas here, and we just need to figure out how to realize them in a perfect way, in a better way. And that's why I think that legal needs to have, like, they have to help, and there needs to be a support for that. At least a framework where people would feel comfortable to set up a company in Bulgaria and to go through with a token sale actually. At least there's some basis so that they're not like, oh my God, like, we did that token sale, are we going to jail now? Are we not? Like, exactly, like, this is the question. Like, I've heard that thousands of times. Yeah, it's like, am I going to jail? My father still asks me until today, are you going to jail? And I'm like, I don't know. Hopefully not. No, but a framework, again, a framework is something that needs to be in place, not only for safety, but also for security of the people that are venturing into this place. So I hope you can also comment on that a little bit more.
Yeah. Wow, so many points to touch upon. Well, all right. Let's start with what you said about the ICOs. Essentially, one of the, well, let's say the second, or maybe even the first biggest concern should be how to match your investors with your users. And I think that it's much harder to first do your ICO, build a product, and make sure that the first investors are actually the users of the platform. Unless, of course, you have a crypto investment product like, crypto index fund or some sort of AI trading tool. But if you're doing some sort of crowd sale and you hope that your investors are also your users and doing it from the start, that would be much more difficult than if you, in a case, let's say you have your utility token, you build up your platform, it can be used from day one, and people can use it, see it on the day of the ICO, and come back and be a part of the token sale. So that's one big element, and that's why it's also not for everybody to have the ICOs. It doesn't make sense for a B2B company trying to, maybe with potentially 50 clients to have a huge token sale, especially now when it's only a utility token. So you cannot have part of the profits, but the utility token is just there to raise the money. So that's one of the the comments I have is, how do you get your users to be the same as your investors? Yeah.
I think I have a first-hand experience with that. In the case of ADEX, you don't. we were hoping that a lot of people, there was a lot of people excited about the prospect of a blockchain-based advertising network that would solve a lot of problems of the industry. And a lot of people were literally telling us on all of our community channels that they can't wait for the prototype to be rolled out so that they can start using the platform. And the prototype is now out, and it's usable. And the clients that we have, they're not the community members, surprisingly. I'll be honest with you, I did not expect that to turn this way. But the truth is, we have been receiving a lot of contacts from companies that are not even close to the blockchain landscape. People that have no idea what it is, how it works, but they're excited about using a new advertising type of platform. So, and a lot of our community members at the same time who have the ability to use the platform, these are people who have websites and they can sign up as publishers and monetize their website's traffic, and these are people that have small businesses and can actually use the platform to advertise their products and their projects. They haven't signed up, and I have no explanation to that. I'll be honest, I have no idea why things happened the way they did, why it turned out this way. But this is probably a very harsh reality for me, but I honestly expected and I firmly believed at the stage of the token generation campaign that, this is a wonderful way to reach a lot of potential users, a lot of prospects, and start your projects with an existing user base. But that has not been the case so far. Again, we just launched about a month ago, less than a month ago actually, so time will tell. Perhaps we still need to gain a little bit of momentum. But a lot of the people that I'm imagining, I don't really know for sure, but I'm imagining that people would rather trade their tokens on exchanges rather than just use them within the platform. So again, for us, this is going to be, we're going to have to do this, standard marketing push to get the broad adoption that we need, as one would do with a traditional project.
Ivo, you remember November 2014 when there was a conference, a Bitcoin conference here in Sofia? Yeah, and actually, I want to build on what you're saying, because at the end of the day, what we currently see, we see someone raising money, putting the token on the exchanges. It started, all the speculation happens around that, and there's no product, there's no mainnet, nothing. Do you remember what happened with, how it was with Ethereum? It actually took them, I would say, about more than 14 months between the fundraise and the start of the trading, and before that, another 7 months where they had held approximately 100 meetups, including here in Sofia, and we were at one such, and there's no bad thing about that. I mean, you have the people that want to build something and do it the right way, rather than just getting the easy peasy money and dumping the token or whatever shit will happen with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a few more words about the regulations before closing the topic. So you won't be surprised that my opinion is that there must be regulations, because everybody wants to be part of the success. Everybody wants to be part of the new Google, the new Facebook, the launch of the next worldwide big project. But nobody wants to be part of the scam, and nobody wants to be part of the buyer of shitcoins and etc. And that's why regulations are necessary, because Yes, I have clients, they come to me and they say, we don't want to apply the KYC measures, we are not laundering money, but we want the clients to be anonymous and so on and so on. Okay, but you know, there are a lot of fake projects, there are a lot of scams, and when there is such a project and the clients lose their money, they start to ask, where is the money, aren't there authorities in this country, where is the government, and so on and so on. So everyone wants to be part of the successful project, and that's why there should be some regulations. That is my opinion.
So what I want to finish with is, if you're organizing a token sale or something like campaign, it could be, or it might be a good idea to first have something like an initial judgment on your product by a VC. And maybe they can help you to push you a little bit further, can help you with contacts and so forth. So VCs, they have a function. I completely agree that they could help you in the initial first steps. But then when you're organizing the ICO itself, don't be greedy. I mean, don't come up with rounds of like 1 cent for the VCs and then like $1 for the people. Think about the people, because the ICO is actually, it's created so that everybody can, I mean, really have access. And I agree with Maya as well that you need some regulation. So when you're participating in an ICO now, you might need to provide some personal information, maybe, I don't know, the number of your, I don't know, card or whatever. And this is fine. But if you put, if regulation is a minimum amount of money that you have earned in the last year, or you are a accredited investor in order to participate in the ICO, this is, for me, this sets limits. And I don't want to see that in the future. I would like to really find the middle ground between VCs, between the regulation, and between the idea which ICOs brought to the table in 2000, even before that. So we can, yeah. Yes. So who has a question? And you can answer with this. Questions?
So my question revolves around this anonymous stuff. So we actually talked with Maya a little bit earlier today, but so I'll start just a little bit ahead so that you can know what's the context. So imagine a situation where you have a product that bypasses some kind of big whale or some kind of institution, and then you want to use the blockchain technology to bypass this player. And then the people that are actually going to be users, we would like to bring them on this platform, but they most oftenly wouldn't like to go through a KYC because they don't want their identity to be known to these massive players for some reason. And then we still want to enable them to go through our, so this won't be the only people for sure. But yeah, like it's touching a little bit the marketing as well. So I'm completely agreeing on that. This brings questions for sure for the other people that got scammed or heard some stories. But how to be able to preserve like the trust, still having anonymous users.
You mean in the KYC?
Yes.
I would first like to ask you, are you planning on laundering some money?
Not at all, no.
To be honest, as a marketer, I would not use this as a selling point of a project. I wouldn't. I would just not go there because trust is a big issue in this field right now. And I don't think a project that advertises, hey, you'll be able to bypass this or that legal requirement, I don't think that would be a legit project. I personally would not invest in it. So from marketing perspective, to me, that's a no-no.
Well, from a legal perspective, it depends on the country where the ICO is based, because you know there are countries as the USA where the legal rules are very strict and you can't do this. Maybe there are some countries I'm not informed about all legal rules all over the world where this is possible. However, in most of the countries in which I believe you're interested, the KYC measures are absolutely necessary, and they're not so bad as you might think.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, it doesn't only matter if you have investors from the US, it could even matter if you have an American member of your team. Just one of 20, you fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC. And they have already done this, subpoena your Telegram chats, your emails, your marketing. And they can say, okay, why are you saying you are doing something that, you know, is, in our opinion, is illegal, right? So the question is what you're saying really bypassing government in a way that could be, at least argued, that would be sort of a terrorism act or money laundering or whatever. Now, also it sounds like this could be a good problem for the blockchain to solve. So how do we put our identity somewhere, and when available, we can show that we haven't done any, you know, funny business, but on the other hand, it's not available for the institutions we're trying to disrupt. And that's something the blockchain is very good at. And this is one of, you know, I think numerous teams are working on it.
Surprisingly, Eternity has an identity manager, by the way, that would solve this. So you'll be free. But I agree with actually the rest of the people that what you say sounds super fishy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry. And not even if you get some people to contribute to it, you are the person, or the project are the people that need to be able to answer the question in front of whom? The community. And latest then you'll be taken apart for things like this, always. Because it's in their interest that the project runs smooth, that everything is built up perfectly, and that there are no issues like this.
Thank you. Yeah, so my question is especially for Maya. I'm curious, what's the hairiest situation that a client of yours has ended up into? Like, so what's the worst situation that you've had to deal with as a lawyer in terms of client-lawyer relationship? If it's not confidential, of course, and no names provided, of course. Yeah, blockchain ICOs, yeah.
Maybe the worst situation when I started dealing with ICO projects, maybe I trusted some of my clients too much, and one of them just escaped without paying the fees. Maybe it's the worst case I have with ICOs. It's the worst I dealt with.
Can I ask that question not from a personal perspective, but from a client's perspective? Maybe some of your clients ended up in a situation where they needed a lot of legal help because they broke some laws. Can you give an example, or did you have any such clients at all?
I can give you one example. One of the projects backed by Cofound.it, we actually worked with them around 11 months. So actually before the company was started, people from the team were working with them around the clock, I would say, but let's say quite intensively to help them. And at some point, the regulation came out from the SEC that would make their token model illegal. So this is, I think, something that is very very prone to happen. And their token model was illegal because it was blatant security. And at the time, summer last year, it wouldn't fly. At least with our with our expectations of reasonable aversion of regulatory risk. And at this point, we said, okay, you have to make a utility token, or we cannot work with you. And at some point, they said we don't want to do the utility token. And then, it became a discussion. Okay, we've worked with them for so long. Why? Should we drop a substantial revenue? All the team members' effort is gone, or try to avoid risk, and that's what happened. And that's something that I think has happened a lot last year.
What did you decide in the end?
We decided, we cannot work with them.
what was the last token that actually, the one with the cucumber, which you ended up with what was it? Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes, you know, it's the people who fuck up the project. It's not the project promise that is the bad thing, you know? It's just the people who say, okay, fuck off. You know, there is this sign for you. So it's like probably not the token that much the problem, where the actors behind it. So yeah. Not that much.
Having done something, maybe somebody regret about it. It's more kind of real case scenario.
He was looking for people's creativity. Exactly.
So thanks for the opportunity. I want to ask from a VC perspective, because presumably the token captures the value of the net worth. So would you prefer to take equity in the company or the team doing an ICO, or would you want to go for tokens, and why? Because like equity takes potential future revenue in the company, whereas token takes value of net worth.
Got it. So actually, there are two different things to consider. So let's start from whether we as a VC or the VCs in general are precluded from the opportunity to invest in tokens, and this depends on their the documentation under which and the conditions under which they have raised money from their LPs. And I would say that that being said, you will start to see more and more traditional VCs being capable of investing, to invest in tokens. And then the second part of the question is, if you can do both, which one would you choose? And I would always say, and if I have the chance to do, I would always go for having the access to the company, getting equity, mostly because how it works. If you buy tokens with equity, there comes nice things like board seats, some liquidation preferences, all this kind of stuff that minority shareholders protection, all this kind of stuff. So it's always good to have you as a VC who is responsible and have fiduciary duties to your LPs, to your investors. You need to protect their money from whatever bad things can happen. And then that instrumentarium you have in your hands already, then what you can do is exchange part of the equity for the tokens whenever they, at the token generation event or whatever it happens. But me as a VC, I would always love to do this. If there's not such an opportunity, I'll go for the token just for the tokens. And one more thing, when talking about VCs, average Joe tends to be very much following price dynamics, and what we as a VC we are for the good and the bad, and we don't dump the tokens. And that being said, what I'm saying that it's always good that you have VC or long-term investors which are not dumping your tokens right away. Is it okay? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, thanks.
There was one question here.
Yeah, actually, it is question to Vanina. Yeah. I would like to know a little bit more about your ICO, which platform, how long it takes to get prepared for it.
They wanted to know about your ICO, how long it took, which platform, preparation cycle.
More details, yes, whatever it comes to.
Okay, well, what I would like to start with is a funny story of a trip to China that we had planned a little after our ICO. Right about the time of our trip, China banned ICOs. And we're not sure about that, but we did suspect that we did have Chinese investors and people from China who bought our tokens. So when my colleague and I got on the plane to Shanghai, we were not quite sure we were going to come back. So, so we had left an intricate and very paranoid system of protection for people who didn't hear from us in a couple of days. And that was, now it's funny. We were terrified back then, but now it's funny. About the actual ICO, if you wish, you can find me afterwards. I can give you all the details that you want. But the quick answer would be that we took about a year preparing the idea, the business model, ironing out the little details. We got the team together. The actual marketing campaign that we did for the ICO ran for about a month, which it was on the edge of failing. I think I would advise for people to leave at least a couple, up to 3 months for a proper marketing campaign. We rushed it a little bit, but as I said, we did our ICO at a moment that was very ripe for that type of funding. So we were lucky to raise all the money. We used Ethereum as a platform, so we raised 40,000 Ether. And yeah, as I said, 8 hours, 40,000 Ether. That's the big picture. If you have any more specific question, I think that people will not be interested in all of it. So find me afterwards.
I just want to ask you, how do you? No, just being recorded. How do you decide the amount of capital that you need? I mean, why you applied for 12 million, not for 20 or 50 or 100?
Okay. Well, that would depend on your business model and your revenue streams, I would guess. We sat together and we did an estimation of how much money we needed to build our project, how much money. As Vlad said, we didn't want to be greedy, which in retrospect might not have been the best decision. At this point, we might have as well been at the Bahamas, sipping on a cocktail. But yeah, just ditch the project, take the money and run. Hashtag exit scam. But no, we did a projection of how much time we would need to build our project, how much money we would need to do that in order to build it comfortably, build the team that we needed in order to execute what we had planned, and hard capped it there.
For us, actually, it was a little bit different. Like we didn't even look at the monetary value per se. We kind of calculated how much cryptocurrency, I think Ether and Bitcoin, we would need in order to create what we had planned to do, and then it just came to the price that we at the end of the day gathered. So like for us, it was from day one, it was about the actual cryptocurrency more than the fiat value.
I want to extend to that question, because with ICOs, the situation is that you do the token sale once, and then there is no point that you can do more funding in the future. So do you plan that event into amount? Or maybe you can sell your own tokens, which you kind of keep like 50% of it. But yeah, but you wanted to add on the previous one, yeah?
On the previous, on that one as well, because what you can see actually, to answer first that question, you have plenty of teams that are selling 50% of the tokens, and they keep the 50% in order to, let's say, do community support or some kind, but in my opinion, they keep it just for secondary. And this is super, super important when you value actually, the overall valuation and what dilution you as an investor will go. Look at Ripple, they have sold what, 20% of the tokens? Well, even less. So down the road, you have 5 to 10x dilution, and that company being valued at $25 billion and having down the road dilution of, let's say, 5-7 times. You tell me, in order to make up your money twice, how much this company is going to be valued. So it's going to be $350 billion. When this is going to happen, I don't know. But on the other question actually, which is really important, and this is a no-no for us. Whenever we see, when we don't see what the use of proceeds is, when we have mixed between legal and operational and all this kind of stuff, we don't see when we see uncapped ICOs and when we see the use of proceeds as a black box, it's a no-no for us.
Okay, more questions? There was one there. Yeah.
So as far as I know, the whole ICO marketing can be extremely costly, especially with all the ad spend for Facebook and Google. Did you guys, Vanina, did you guys do a pre-ICO? Do you have a bunch of money beforehand to spend on the ad spend? One. And two, how much of an impact do you think is a whole ban on Facebook ads and Google ads going to have on the whole community and the whole...
We did have a small pre-sale, but that wasn't actually to fund marketing so much as to cater to the requests of bigger investors. We were very smart about our marketing, teaming up with partners that would accept sort of like success fees, if you want. So they would be paid in tokens after the success of the ICO. And that is an ideal utopian scenario that we were able to partake in. I know that at this point of time, that's probably not possible, and you would probably need a huge amount of money for your pre-sale marketing. But yeah, that's a good way to go. I would recommend it to anyone who can secure partnerships and services that would be paid in tokens after the crowdfunding campaign. As far as Facebook and Google and now actually Twitter and Snapchat also banning ICO ads, I would like to make the remark that they're not banning crypto or blockchain advertising, they're banning ICO ads. And that's a very important distinction, I believe, because the truth is most of the ICO marketing revolves around communities, and those communities, they don't really buy Facebook or Google AdWords ads. So legit projects don't usually use those. If you see projects like BitConnect is something that you would see advertised, I don't know, with a Facebook ad or a YouTube video or something like that. But to be honest, and that's how you end up on John Oliver and Last Week Tonight. But to be honest, I think that this new ban will have little to zero impact on the general marketing outlook of ICOs.
So again, we didn't have Facebook ads per se. It was more of a content sharing what we did back in the day. Now, I've seen both. Been involved in projects where you did not do it, and I've been involved in projects where you did do it. And I absolutely agree with it. Doesn't make sense. You attract people that, when you actually look at the metrics, will give you way less added value than people in the actual crypto community per se. You're gonna see something like 0.05 to 0.1 Ether per contribution from Facebook, if anything comes around. And when you also look at the entire market, you see something that there's more and more bounties where you have the things like this Facebook page, comment on it. I've actually seen people where you had the same ad with the same person commenting 17 times at the same ad, literally the same freaking ad, and several people. So it looks fishy again. It does not give you any comfort to go ahead and look into this project. And also, at least in my opinion, it annoys the crap out of you when you open your Facebook newsfeed and you see the same project pop up 5 times and after you scroll down twice. It's horrible.
The only Facebook ad I've seen was from the Bunny token, revolutionizing the adult industry. So for me, it's not really a big loss that there's... Yeah, they're disrupting everything. But yeah, basically for your marketing, you have to be scrappy, as what Vanina said, and a lot used to be that a lot of people would take their tokens. And also the methods of how you market. Yeah, still do. If they like your project, of course, then they'll take your tokens. But the methods are changing, you know, from what last year worked may not work last year. So you're competing with many more projects for you know, the limited attention of the investors. And you know, what I think works now much better is something like influencers, reviewing your projects. But yeah, essentially, that's maybe was not so developed last year, but this year may work much better. And it's just a question of what works now. And probably not Facebook ads.
Hi, just a quick question regarding cybersecurity risk mitigation in token sales.
So do you mean auditing of the smart contracts or?
Measures, just what would be usual and preferred measures against cybersecurity risk?
So the first one is auditing.
Ways to mitigate it.
Yeah, so the first one is auditing the smart contract, and that could be quite expensive. I've heard up to paying for up to $60,000 for audit. Of course, for most audits will be less, but you can get an idea. It's very, very expensive. But on the other hand, this is something you cannot screw up. If you make a mistake with your smart contract, you are, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, essentially that's one of the main things that are different for cybersecurity in a blockchain startup. The smart contract is a single point of failure which can be exploited and can be used against you. So that's...
We're talking in blockchain in general, we're talking about trustless network. But unfortunately, there are several individuals which are trying to actually destroy this whole thing. So it's not only the smart contract per se. There's companies out there. There is in Switzerland, for example, there's also a couple of Bulgarians that are building right now a smart contract.
Wisky from Switzerland.
Sorry?
Wisky in Switzerland. One of the
No, it's what was it? I'll tell you later. But there are companies that can make this cheaper, but there are also companies that will want $150,000 to actually audit your smart contract, which is outrageously expensive. But the smart contract is not all the single point of failure. It's a horrendous one, but you also have your dashboard, which needs to be secured, and a lot of other parts. And this is one thing that I cannot stress enough. Take the time and also use the funds that you have to make sure that you do the extra mile. You secure not only your data, but also the data of the people that are interested in getting involved with the project that you're providing. A perfect example is Enigma. They hacked their dashboard, went into the email server, and literally sent out just a different email address. That was like $1 million from people that believed in the project, gone. And that breaks the trust.
I just wanted to open this topic as, you know, difference between the two and the role of the cybersecurity risk for both type of investment?
Well, in all fairness, I reckon that each party per se has something like toolbox that they use.
You have insurances, for example, of investing venture capital. Investments could be insured by cybersecurity insurances, and whether this will be applicable to the token sales.
Well, I have not heard of a token sale so far that was insured per se. And I would go with that because it's not a tangible asset right now, also in the Bulgarian legal system. I don't know, Kirill, you want to go?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, so there's not insurable crypto wallet yet. So most of the time, if it's the bad guys who steal your money, so it could be the good guys who steal your money and then return it. But if it's the bad guys who steal your money, mostly they have it. Of course, there's ways for you to, to isolate them and make sure their money is never spent, but it's left your wallet. On the other hand, one of our projects is working on insurable crypto wallet. So that's something pretty cool, but it's not there yet. It's not. Mostly your funds are, if they're gone, they're gone.
Actually, there was this event with this problem with the parity smart contracts, which Vanina, Adex, and we as Eternity experienced. Yes, yes, unfortunately, but their Ether was taken by the white hat hackers, and ours were the black hat hackers. So they got their money back, and we lost some of the Tether. But I think what she's saying is, what is going to happen if, for example, a VC goes into an ICO or organizes jointly an ICO with the founders, and then the smart contract is hit, and then the tokens or Ether is stolen. Is the VC in some way liable, or what is happening there?
No, but we as a VC, we are not the organizers. We are investors, so the founders and the company that is preparing the ICO. But to build on the question, and I would say that cybersecurity is kind of a big issue, and not only in crypto, but all over the place. And to be very precise, there are not that many people in the world which can make the proper due diligence on your smart contract. That being said, numbers like 60 to 100,000, 150 is something that is worth the money, because our own very own economy actually got quite significant amount of Ether locked in the parity hack, and don't compromise on security.
So maybe two more questions. What is the other mic?
So I have a question related to the upcoming application of the European Data Protection Act. Do you expect any impact on ICOs and in general the crypto economy related to that? Especially, yeah.
Well, I guess there will be life after 25th of May when the GDPR will come into force. And it's the usual question these days. Well, this is really a huge team, and it is maybe we can organize a separate event for this. I'm absolutely serious about that. There are in a couple of sentences, there are no special rules about ICO. So what is applicable for the ordinary project, the same is applicable for the ICOs. If you want to know more about the GDPR rules, maybe we can talk later or something like that, but I really can't make it in some sentences. What is applicable to all the other projects, the same is applicable to your ICO.
All right. Life after ICO. Have you shipped any products? How is this affecting your token price? And what's the scenario for ICOs that already raised money? Are they shipping any products? Are they obliged to ship any products?
Depends from project to project. In a perfect world scenario, you should have something like a demo version or a mock-up which you can present in front of somebody. Some time ago, a white paper itself was enough, but the more time develops, the more competition is out there, the further you actually need to go ahead before you get to something. So as presentable, as ready as you can get it, as good as it gets. Like, make sure you don't go absolutely naked in it, but also give yourself the time to actually develop something. Nobody expects you directly after the token sale to provide an entire product. That's why you're kind of raising funds. So make sure that you have a clear roadmap, you have the partnerships ready, and you have the actual support and the people that can realize the project.
We in the VC world have a saying, go raise money before your product is on the market, because then you got questioned on the revenue, on the unit economics, all this kind of shit. That's a joke, but from the perspective of the ICOs, what I see and what I think needs to have some adjustment is you have companies like Tezos or I don't know, Filecoin raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and 1 year, 1.5 years later, or 1 year later, they still don't have the product, and this is not a good thing in my opinion. It's something that actually what you need is do the preparatory work, ship some kind of MVP or how you call it, prototype, whatever, but have the investors have the feeling about the roadmap, have the feeling about the product and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, in my opinion, it's or at least stop listing the tokens before the product is not yet on the market.
All the companies here have already year number subsidies. We haven't tested price close to you're out to Romania, you're launching with the other you just launched.
We just launched, so about 7-8 months after the ICO. And to answer your initial question, life after the ICO is like life after children. You kind of have something on your hands and it's still a baby and you don't know if that's going to be the cute kid that everyone at daycare likes, or maybe it's going to be the bully. So it requires a lot of attention, especially if you start listing your token early. You know, you have high expectations of it. You know, like in the case with our ICO, we were hoping that our baby would go to Harvard preschool and, you know, then take it from there. Truth is, as soon as we launched, our launch coincided with the market dip, but that was not entirely the reason for the price dip as well. But the price of our token went down after the ICO. It went slightly up right before, after the release, of the prototype. Went slightly up before that, and then as soon as we released, people were like, okay, what is this thing that we invested? And that's partly because of the makeup of investors, because a lot of those people were just investing because of the hype. They weren't really reading white papers. They didn't really know what they were investing in. So as soon as we rolled out the beta of the MVP, if you wish, a lot of people were disappointed because they didn't have the right expectations of, you know, what they were going to get, what they were going to see. But yeah, we're those young parents that have almost no social life and are still hoping for Harvard preschool.
Usually many of the investors don't. What is the percentage of your investors?
Okay, I don't have the number in my head. I'll have to look into that. We haven't really seen a huge dump because, again, it's very tricky because it coincided with that big market dip. So it's kind of like, is it us? Is it the market? Is it the Bitcoin price that we're directly related to? So I can't really answer that and sleep okay after my answer.
Let's go for one more question and then we what was the last question? Come on, I'll give you one. That's my question. Who gives a question? Anyone has a question? Raise my hand. Come on. How they used to. Go for it.
So it's a question for you three guys. When you're looking at a project to make an investment, just name one thing that you look for in that project from each of you, please.
So what are you looking in investments? I'm replying for the video. What are you looking in these ICOs?
Always, as I mentioned, always the team. Always. For me, it has always and it will always be the most important thing. What kind of people have come together?
Is also in unit economics.
You go to a VC and you hear this question and you hear the answer. Team, market, traction, but team comes first and all this kind. Okay, team, of course.
Well, the very quick way to quickly brush off bad projects is just answering the question, is this a good use for the blockchain? And are they actually, can they do it with something else? Can they replace it with fiat or with Ether? Is the token or is the service actually built for the blockchain, or is just adapted to raise the money? That's the quick though.
I'll give one more here.
Yeah, it's the post-ICO question, and it's what are the worst-case scenarios for a company that has raised successfully, let's say, 30, 50 million? What are the worst-case scenarios?
How many do you want?
Apart from the accent, broken ribs and shit like that.
First of all, it can happen that you actually get issues with regulators because you have not used a utility token as advertised, but a security token, or the other way around. Your smart contract cannot execute as it should, which means that pretty much everything is lost. There can be internal issues which are going to break the entire project, and yeah, that happens too. I don't like to talk too much about that one, actually. That was painful, but yeah. No, but I think those are the most important ones, really.
No, I think that the worst case scenario from an investor's perspective is for us just to get the money and run. But no, that was a joke, obviously, for legal purposes.
Okay, guys, so thank you very much. Thank our amazing panelists. And see you next month, guys. Thank you for being here.